on long line, capturing his attention through his name and also the start of the come command. When you have a long line, you want to make sure there are no tangles in it before you start. If you have the long line knotted, then it will become frayed and it may break on you. They only have so much of a life, but they will last a long time as long as you take care of them. This is about a 15-foot leash. I also like my leashes to have a brass clasp on them. This one's meant for a smaller dog or a puppy, but these are pretty strong, and the large ones are even stronger. Unlike the nickel-plated ones, they won't fall apart if your dog tugs on them, and that doesn't happen often, but it's happened to me often enough that I wouldn't want an untrained dog on anything but a brass collar. I mean a brass snap. So, good boy. Puppy training is a little different than adult dogs, as they're very young and you can do most things, get them prepared for later training through food or toys. But you don't want that to be the case always, which is why you need training after 6 months old to polish up everything you've had and make it much more reliable later when they get into adolescence. But for puppies, you know, we're just teaching them the moves. We're trying to make it as reliable as possible with food, but we're just making it fun for them. We're building our relationship right now and later. And right now it's just all about having fun with the owner, bonding with the owner or trainer. A lot of times when I'm doing this with a puppy so that they're interested in what I have, I'll do it during their breakfast or their lunchtime or their dinner time. I don't like dogs to be hungry, you know, overly hungry when we're training, you know, because it's a lot of work. I like them to be well fed and feel full, but at the same time, it's good to get the motivation through the food. And if they're you know, if they're really full, if they've just eaten their breakfast, they won't work. So I tend to give them their breakfast or lunch. Actually, Hank doesn't really get lunch, so I'm just making do. He might be feeling full because he gets 2 meals a day at his house. Hank! Sit. Good boy. So every time he comes to me. Actually, he was pretty slow with the food when we've begun before. And then once he realizes, every dog's different, like I said, once he realizes I have it, then he's pretty keen to come get it. So we do this actually while we're walking. It's difficult to film this while we're walking, or any of this. It comes out very shaky and hard to watch. So if you do that, say come, you want to draw them straight in, as close to you as you can. Good boy, sit. Yes. Ideally while standing, but I'm getting more of his attention while I'm down here. Sometimes it helps if you walk away from them, but not so distracted that he goes after the dogs that are right over there. Now before you stop giving food to your puppy, you want to put in enough time that you start to get pretty solid, crisp repetitions of this before you start alternating the food. And in the beginning with your puppy, I would worry more about getting that than getting them off the food. You will have enough time, if you're starting a puppy young like this, to get them off the food. I'm not saying forever, but I'm just saying, you know, the first few weeks of training, I would concentrate more on getting the level of precision you want with your command than alternating the food at that point. Hey. Come. Good boy, good puppy. That's a good puppy. Sit. Yes. You'll hear me saying yes and break too at the end of the commands. That's a release word. It means do what you want at that point. Both of them mean the same thing. In markers, I use yes as a release word, or break. No as a that's not what I'm looking for. And good means, and we're not, usually I don't use this with puppies, good means keep on doing this because we're not far enough along to be doing stays or anything that I can really expect them at this early point in training to be continuing on with it. So you never want good, in other words, to become break or yes. You want that to be a signal that they're doing a good job and they should continue doing that, whatever that is. You know, I'm talking about stationary commands now, but later on in retrieving and such, good can mean keep on searching, you're in the right direction. And this is why puppies should always be on a long line or some sort of leash. He was about to make friends with Bree and Devin, which wouldn't have gone well for him. Hank, come. Sit. Yes. So this is good for Hank because he's being worked around a distraction he doesn't normally have. And he's a pretty easy puppy too. But you still, you know, even when they're easy and friendly, training them is the best way to solidify your relationship and have a way to communicate to them later on. Because if you have nothing that you can say to your dog that they will respond to later on in a situation like that, your dog could get seriously hurt. It's not always your dog that's going to be the problem. And sometimes the person who has the other dog is walking their dog on leash and doing everything correctly. And then if you let your friendly dog go to that dog, that's really your fault, your problem. And the dog that's going to pay is unfortunately your friendly dog. Just want to lead him in a little closer. Hank!